Leads me on to one of my next questions, which is about imposter syndrome. This is something I know a lot of females do suffer with. So a question to you both: do you use does imposter syndrome ever affect you? And if yes, how do you overcome it?
I think for me, I really, really felt it when we were doing a lot of the pitching for our pre-seed investment round. It's like, who gave me business doing this? Asking people for money. And I always try to tell myself, whether I listen to it or not is a different story, is that nobody is born with kind of all-encompassing knowledge. It is learned. There was once a point where the expert in the room knew absolutely nothing. 2 years ago, I knew absolutely nothing about drinks. And here I am. And it just kind of circles back to my point earlier, like being a founder isn't about having the skill set, it's about having the mindset. So for me, as long as in the back of my mind, I know that I'm always going to be solution driven, and that's just innately who I am as a person. That's probably how I overcome those moments where I'm like, hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I'd say it's not a huge thing. I just personally struggle with. I think it's just, like we said, making sure you celebrate your successes, and it's often easy to compare yourself to other brands or other people in a similar stage or competitors who have done something amazing. But like Wynter said, it's just about putting things into perspective sometimes, and actually taking a step back and thinking, okay, we're nearly 2 years down the line. Look how far we've come from never having worked in the alcohol industry to now having a drinks business that's doing incredibly well, secured an investment round, listed at Selfridges. When you start to list out all the things you've done in that 2 years, it is incredible, and it does give you the confidence to understand that it's kind of well deserved.
Absolutely, thank you. So has there been any female entrepreneur that has inspired you? And they could be celebrity or, somebody within, your friendship or family circle.
I think one person who's maybe operating or has had a very similar story to us, who has inspired us, is Thomasina Myers, who started Oaxaca because she followed a very similar journey in terms of loving Mexican street food and bringing it to the UK and bringing a culture over that people weren't really accustomed to. And she's had huge success in the food and drink space and has now gone on to write loads of books. And she's an incredible entrepreneur who has now established a brand that's known globally, but has done incredibly well in the UK.
I would probably say mine's slightly different to Alice's. I found this really inspiring because I can remember reading about it like a while ago, but it's only kind of circled back to me recently, is the two sisters who founded Karma Kitchen. And they went to Bristol University, and essentially they started the concept of Karma Kitchen because they were launching a kind of fresh food and lunch delivery service in London. And off the back of that, they realized that there was a mass commercial need for a lot of businesses to have these kind of dark kitchens where they could operate delivery services and restaurants. And it circles back to what I kind of said earlier about all good concepts come from plugging a pain point. So instead of just kind of being really micro and looking at what their business was, they realized, okay, right, we can actually do what we're doing for ourselves, for the masses. And I think they've now gone on to raise like a Series A of £250 million when their target was £3 million or something insane like that. And now they're expanding across Europe. But this was literally two sisters, went to Bristol Uni, who just wanted to start their own kind of fresh food delivery company. And this is what I mean about like your proposition can evolve. You just need to be super on it and just get the right support in. But those kinds of stories are so inspiring because I feel like more people need to hear that like you can go to university, you don't have to like complete a grad scheme or do things the traditional way. Like there are so many different avenues, which is why I'm such a huge advocate of like universities just speaking more about these success stories rather than getting like Deloitte in to speak to the students about how you can kind of spend 10 years climbing the corporate ladder. There are just, there are other stories that I think need a spotlight on them. And that was a really, kind of inspiring one for me.
Thank you. It's inspiring and I would say exciting. I love talking to other entrepreneurs. It's always excited me. Yeah, it just motivates you as well. It's a dream big, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so what are you working on? So back to business then. What are you working on now as an e-commerce space that excites you or frustrates you?
Ooh.
Well, I guess we've just launched our 125 ml pocket size cans, which is a very exciting addition to our range. And I guess that's something we've launched on our website through. So we're still D2C with that, but again, trying to get a few listings. What excites me? Gosh, it's a hard question.
The potential of all of these other marketplaces that are continuing to launch, or
I'm just thinking on the spot. I think Amazon is a particularly interesting one in my sales brains now pinging, because I feel like Amazon's a platform that can be utilized to kind of get global reach. So for us, I think it would be a really interesting avenue to kind of test demand for our products in kind of small pockets of the EU and understand what demand's like, say, in Spain and Germany, without putting a huge amount of upfront revenue into marketing. We could see what demand was like, and I feel it's probably something that you can help with your area of expertise. I think it's a really efficient, streamlined way to start introducing your product without having to have, obviously, that physical presence, because with physical retail comes with a whole breadth of like operational issues and like having to get stock from distributor to wholesaler. E-commerce, all you need to do is get your stock to one centralized fulfillment center, and then like the world is your oyster. And I think for a small brand like us, where we don't have an ops team managing it, I think that's what makes e-commerce incredibly exciting. It offers you an avenue to scale really quickly.
Test and scale, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And reach new demographics as well, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's closing in on our final question now. So, well, maybe two. Which podcast do you listen to? And then the final question, if you were to give top tip for a woman starting her journey into entrepreneurship, what would that top tip be? So podcasts, because that's all about inspiring. I think podcasts are educational and inspiring. And then what would your top tip be for other female entrepreneurs?
A podcast I'm into at the moment, just because I feel like sometimes if I'm stressed, it helps me to get my thoughts in order, is the Mindset Mentor. He releases, they're 20 to 30 minutes, but they all have a focus, and he very, very clearly compartmentalizes things like imposter syndrome, or if you're having a really stressful day, or what was one I listened to recently? I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's really, really good. And sometimes he's an entrepreneur and he's been through 2 businesses, I think, but it's very, very helpful when you almost need somebody else to help you get out of a very stressed mindset.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, I'm going to look into that one as well. Mindset Mentor.
Yeah, Mindset Mentor. And also I like it because it's small. I'm obviously, when we're so busy, having to listen to an hour podcast, like for example, Diary of a CEO is such an interesting podcast, but they're always 2 hours long. Yeah, and I don't have time. So something that's nugget size, that's 20 minutes is really good for me, because I can do it on a quick walk. Yeah, that's something that takes my focus away from what I'm doing.
Wynter?
Mine, one of my big old guilty pleasures right now is Jay Shetty.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The monk.
Yes, exactly. And it's all kind of about life is about like selfless service. And I think I kind of referenced it earlier when we were speaking. But one of the key things that I've been struggling with at the moment is just kind of like not enjoying the journey as much as I should, and kind of like relieving myself of like the stresses and the anxieties. And he always says kind of like, don't judge the moment, like try to approach everything, whether it be positive or negative, with neutrality. And his kind of key teaching is like, if you lose, cry for a day. If you win, celebrate for a day, then go back to the grind. Whereas typically what we would do is, if we lose, we would cry for a month. And if we win, we would celebrate for a day. So we become more immersed in all of these kind of negative cycles, rather than kind of immersing ourselves in like winning and growth. So yeah, it's just kind of like every season serves its purpose. So that's a school of thought that I'm trying to teach myself at the moment. But he's just amazing. I feel like if you go onto YouTube and you think of like any stressor or anything that you're dealing with, like he has got like an amazing sound bite of how you can just like improve your happiness like a teeny tiny bit every single day, which is super important.
I've listened to a lot of his stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Sometimes I listen to probably too much. I don't then reflect. on what I've learned or what I've listened to as well. So both of you then articulated exactly what you were getting from those podcasts. So that's interesting. Thank you. And then on top tip for a female entrepreneur entering entrepreneurship.
I'd probably say talk to those who have done it. I think we wouldn't have got our product off the ground so quickly had we not got advice from people who had already done it in a similar space. And it was the simplest things. I think you get so caught up in starting a journey, being overwhelmed with where to start, thinking you need to write a business plan, thinking you need to have everything in place, all the structural things behind you, when actually sometimes it's as simple as making a cocktail in your kitchen and getting it right. And yeah, I think had we not spoken to a couple of founders, it would have maybe taken us a lot longer, or we would have maybe gone off track a bit and done some things that had delayed our launch. So yeah, that would probably be my advice.
Well, mine would probably be unconventional, be disruptive. If your competitors are going left, you should go right. Like, just don't try and replicate what anyone else is doing, because that's only got them so far. Like, we've only got so far from being super scrappy by kind of challenging kind of traditional schools of thoughts, and it's just paving out your own path and really like not benchmarking it to what anyone else is doing, because there's a reason that you're kind of going in one direction and there's a reason why they've kind of done it their way. So yeah, don't be afraid to kind of be super bold and maybe a little bit controversial at times would be mine.
So like right or left, I've heard that if they zig, you zag. I've heard that advice consistently through my life. Yeah. It is all, especially if you're on social media, watching the competitors, seeing how amazing they're doing right now. And they're obviously celebrating all the good things, aren't they? And it can give you that inferiority complex or imposter syndrome, or like then you start going in your mindset going off in lots of different directions. But you two ladies seem to have your heads completely screwed on.
Sometimes you got us on a good day.
No, you certainly sound like you know exactly what you're doing and where you're going, and you know, to have that incredible amount of success in such a short period of time. Well done, well done. So I'm going to stop the recording now, unless there's anything else that you would like to say to the audience about entrepreneurship or being a female founder. Or I think we've covered quite a lot, but if there's any missing nuggets that you want to share, then please do so now, or I'll stop recording.
No, just thank you for having us. It's actually really nice to have these conversations and just like reflect on everything a little bit. We don't do it enough, so it feels quite like therapeutic.
Nice chat.
Thank you.